Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Monday, August 28th, 2017, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, Nikkei's down a little bit, everything's up a little bit. Over there in Europe, everything's down a little bit. Here in the States, mixed a little bit. Oil, down. Gold, up almost 20 bucks. So what's going on? Well, they had that hurricane over here in Texas, and that's what really knocked oil prices up and down because of this and that. But anything that's happening over there is only temporary. So the shock, the oil price shock, the gasoline spike, this is only a temporary hit. It's going to change sooner rather than later. So basically the markets on oil are where they have been, and they're not going much further at this time. But something may change that, and it's going to be a big one. And we're going to tell you what it is. Gold. Gold went up because the Fed met at Jackson Hole. Yep. Central bankers caution on trade and rule cuts. The world's two top central bankers delivered warnings Friday against steps they fear could unravel a fragile and hard-fought global economic expansion by undoing post-crisis banking rules or pursuing protectionist trade measures. You know what that is.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Hard-fought global economic expansion, and they print this stuff? You know the data. I've been going over it forever. Median household income below 1999 levels. Oh, yes, in the United States, since Obama came in 2009, when right after the panic of 08, 95% of the wealth went to 5%. Oh, yeah, 94% of the jobs created are temporary jobs. Oh, yeah, 51% of the people working earning $30,000 or less. Oh, yeah, unemployment in Europe, the jobs stink. The only thing that's gone up are the markets, and the rich have gotten much richer. End of story. 8 cats got more dough than half the world's population combined. Yeah, 20 cats here in the U.S. got more dough than half the population. And they print this crap. And more crap on top of that. Yellen crap. No, I'm not yelling. Janet Yellen. Yeah, that crap. Yeah, you know. Here's what she says. She goes on to say how concerned they are that they may change some of those hard-fought rules. Ms. Yellen said a growing body of research showed that, quote, the core reforms we've put in place have substantially boosted resilience without unduly limiting credit availability or economic growth. All they did was make the big banks bigger. There was no reform. The only reform is that they put more pressure on the smaller banks, and the biggers took more of the market share. End of story. You want reform, put back in the Glass-Steagall Act. And they're worried about protectionism. Oh, yeah, how dare we stand in the way of the multinationals stealing more of our money? There's been no recovery. The Trump recovery is as bad as the Obama recovery, barely 2%. And the reason gold went up because everybody knew with a half a brain that Draghi and Yellen was saying nothing more than pure.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
That's right. They don't know how to unravel this $15 trillion worth of debt that they all took in that bond buying and quantitative easing scheme that they can't get out of. And the other reason gold went up, now they're betting that the United States won't raise interest rates. It's down to 42% in December. It was 60% that they were going to raise it. It's disgusting, these people. So, Euro hits highest since 2015. Mrs. Yellen's speech didn't dressed the outlook for U.S. interest rate increases, disappointing some investors who had hoped the central bank chief would sound a hawkish tone. Central bankers' optimism tempered by uncertainty over limits of their powers. Long-term growth challenge and dangers of political leaders' missteps worry policymakers. What policymakers? These clowns called everything wrong. The facts are there. Little Ben Bernanke's BS never saw the crash coming, yelling one after another. It's a joke, and the prostitutes make it real. Here we go. Quote, "We have multiple engines of growth propelling the world economy, and that is something that makes the momentum much, much more sustainable," said Maurice Obstfeld, the International Monetary Fund chief economist. The International Mafia Federation, Maurice. There is no recovery. The only recovery is for the filthy rich that got richer. The facts are there, Jack, but nobody wants to put them all together because you're prostitutes and you get paid to put out. Euro hits highest levels since 2015. Yep. The dollar losses deepened Friday after a speech from Mr. Draghi later in the day. Mr. Draghi avoided giving new clues as to when the ECB might wind down its stimulus program, but acknowledged that the Eurozone's economic recovery is gaining ground. Stimulus program, you stole our money and you gave it to your friends, buying corporate bonds. You lowlife Draghi. Yeah, Draghi through the crap, man. Anyway, moving on. What else do we have here? U.S. banking data suggests economy may be losing steam. Hey, I wonder why gold's going up. Wonder why they're not raising them interest rates, folks. Now that Obama's not here to focus anymore, folks. More glaringly, after strong lending growth for several years, momentum clearly is slowing. In its quarterly report on the sector, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp found that total loans and leases by banks and other insured institutions rose just 3.7% from a year earlier. At the end of June, that is the third consecutive quarterly deceleration and is down from the 6.7% pace of growth a year ago. And what's also happening, credit cards charge-offs soared by 24.5% in the second quarter. And you keep going on. Tapping homes for cash is back. Yeah, got no dough? Want a good deal? Hey, how about a second mortgage on your house? When I was a kid, anybody that got a second mortgage, that was a bad thing because you couldn't cover your debt. And that's what they're doing again. Second mortgages are on the rise. Home equity line originations rose 8% to nearly $46 billion in the second quarter, their highest level since 2008. One of the big causes for the financial crisis, doing it again, adding it up, and you can't add it up, then read it. Wall Street's top bankers sell their own group shares as Trump rally reverses. Financial Times, today, Monday. Insiders at the big six banks by assets have in total sold a net 9.32 million shares on the open market. Sales by insiders outnumbered purchases by 14-1. And that's how they're all telling you to buy them bank stocks. That's right. You hear it all the time. Just tune into the prostitute news. CNBC, Bloomberg, all of them. So, we're in a very critical period right now. That's why you're seeing gold going up. That's why you're seeing Bitcoin going up and other cryptocurrencies. And I want to mention a word on the cryptocurrencies. Just like commodities crash, markets crash, so too will cryptocurrencies. Are they overpriced now? I don't know. But you're going to have a major correction at some point. But when we talk about gold now over $1,300 an ounce, let's not forget, If you go back to October of 2016, gold was higher than it is now. It started going down as the election got closer. When Trump got in and the dollar went up, gold went down. Now the dollar's lost all its value in 2017. It's lower than it was when Trump got in. And that's why the euro right now is almost at $1.20 per euro. So, the cheaper the dollar gets, the stronger it is for gold, but it can reverse at any time, but it's showing you the uncertainty in the marketplace. So if you want to see how fragile this so-called economic growth is and where all the dough went, hey, here's a new number that just came out. The top 1% have more than 200 times the retirement saving of the typical American. Why should we have any savings at all? And the Trump administration is getting tough with that Venezuelans. U.S. curbs Venezuela's access to funds. Yep, the U.S. on Friday restricted the ability of Venezuela to tap American debt market for funding, marking a significant escalation in Washington's economic crackdown against President Maduro's cash-strapped government. The Trump administration said it aims to return Venezuela to democracy and penalize the Maduro government for what it calls human rights abuses. How many people did America kill last week over there in Syria, in Raqqa? Only about 120 civilians and about 30 kids. Oh, but it got better this week. U.S. raid killed civilians, Somalia Army chief. Yeah, at least 10 civilians, including 3 children. That was on Sunday. And how about this one? Saudi admits civilians killed in Friday airstrike in Yemen. A couple of dozen here and there don't count. We got to get them human rights violators down there in Venezuela, I told you. What hypocrisy. And listen to this guy Mnuchin, man, shooting his mouth off. He said, this is not about changing leadership per se. Oh, what do you mean per se? This is about restoring the democratic process and rule of law. Screw you. Who you BSing? I've heard this story before. Hey, Mnuchin, you look like a real tough guy. Why don't you go lead the charge, huh? You little clowns of nothing. Hey, but they didn't do the bond deal. They didn't touch that with the Goldman Sachs gang that you were a member of, and so is Gary Cohen, Trump's economic advisor. It's a takeover, man, in his government. Generals and Goldman Sachs clowns running the show. The white shoe boys and the mass murderers. Yep. Maduro may no longer take advantage of the American financial system to facilitate the wholesale looting of the Venezuelan economy at the expense of the Venezuelan people, said Mnuchin. Oh, yeah, you need the central banks to steal all the money like they do over here. Do it clean, and it really becomes good and dirty. What a bunch of lowlifes. And you know what I keep saying, moving on to the propaganda. They're going to get us into a war with Iran. That's the one. We're the only ones talking about it, and I've been talking about it since Election Day. Iran retools its propaganda with rap videos. This was Sunday in the New York Times. Rap videos. They got this guy over here. You know how many views it has? 17,000. That's less than I got per week on a Trends in the News that we put up. We average about 20-something thousand. That's nothing. But the big story over here about a rap artist. But Iran retools its propaganda. Page 4 in the New York Times. Check out the cover of today's New York Times. The official toilet paper of record, the propaganda slime piece of crap that gets us into war after war. Yeah, that one. You remember they sold that lie that Saddam Hussein had them aluminum tubes and was making yellow cakes. Hezbollah wields rising power as Iran's enforcer. Front page story, and then you open it up. Whoa, look at this. Look at this. 2 big pages. Whoa, and they got that Ayatollah up there, man. And the other guys, whoever they are. Woo, yeah, wait, watch out for those Hezbollahs. Hey, how did Hezbollah come into existence? Well, it couldn't be after Israel kept invading Lebanon, could it? No. Israel has every right to invade Lebanon, because didn't God give Lebanon also when he came down with Moses with them commandments in one of them stories? And God says, I was a real estate agent, and you guys from the east, the Ashkenazis, that didn't convert to Judaism until a couple of 100 years after it happened, you guys could take it all. That's why you got Hezbollah. But you can see where this is going. You can see where it's going. Today, Netanyahu, Iran building missile production sites in Syria and Lebanon. And of course, Hezbollah is fighting in Lebanon. And that's what this whole story is about. The propaganda, this dirty, slimy New York Timers, man, selling hate against Iran in between selling it against Russia. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday, today, that Iran is building sites to produce precision-guided missiles in Syria and Lebanon with an aim of using them against Israel. Hey, if Netanyahu says it, it must be true. Yeah, you remember Netanyahu with his cartoon bomb in the UN about 4 years ago, and it was Iran's nuclear bomb. Yeah, that Netanyahu. Look how they're selling the hate against Iran. Quote, it is also building sites to produce precision-guided missiles toward that end in both Syria and in Lebanon. This is something Israel cannot accept. This is something the UN should not accept, Netanyahu said. Last week, on Trends in the News, I also read to you Netanyahu, in a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, said Israel was prepared to act unilaterally to prevent an expanded Iranian military presence in Syria. That's what he said last week. Now it's the missile story. And you heard Trump, you heard Mad Dog Mattis, our general over there, who's the head of the Defense Department. You heard Tillerson, the Secretary of State. You've heard one after another. And that other maniac, Nikki Haley, our UN ambassador, saying that Iran is the greatest supporter of terrorism in the world. You can see where this is going. And Iran hasn't invaded a country in 250 years. And they were invited into Syria by the duly elected President Assad, who was elected under international observers to be deemed a fair and free election. Now remember, all this information is coming out at the end of the summer. People are in a vacation state of mind. They don't know what's going on. They're not watching the news. And besides, they're only apping and hearing sound bites. They don't know the details. So you can see where this is leading. Most people won't see it coming. It's the Labor Day weekend. So remember, stay on top of the news and ahead of the trends. Tune in to every night, every weekday night, Trends in the News. And also, if you want to support peace, consider going to www.occupypeace.us and put your money where your mind is. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's Trends in the News.